Why looking poor is important. After 60. When you reach a very old age, you begin to notice things that somehow escaped you for most of your life. The funny part is that the answers were always there. They were sitting right in front of us all along, but we were simply too busy chasing things to see them. And one of the biggest lessons I have learned, after many decades on this earth, is that looking poor can sometimes be one of the wisest decisions a person makes after 60. Now, before anybody gets upset with me, I am not talking about living in hardship or denying yourself every comfort. I am not telling you to throw away your possessions or walk around wearing old clothes with holes in them. What I mean is much simpler than that. I mean reaching a point in life where you no longer feel the need to advertise your success to the world. When I was younger, I believed what many people believe. I thought people were paying attention to me. I thought they noticed my car, my clothes, my house, the things I owned, the places I went. I thought success had to be visible. If you had done well in life, surely other people needed to see it. Surely they had to recognize it. And I spent many years, like countless others, trying to build a picture that looked impressive from the outside. Perhaps some of you did the same. Maybe you worked hard to buy a larger house than your parents ever had. Maybe you saved for years to buy a particular car. Maybe you wanted your old friends, former colleagues, or neighbors to see that you had made something of yourself. There is no shame in admitting that. Many of us carried those feelings for decades. We remembered who had more than us when we were young. We remembered who seemed successful. We remembered the people who underestimated us, and somewhere inside ourselves we wanted to prove something. But age has a strange way of removing illusions. One day you wake up and realize that the people you spent years trying to impress are not thinking about you at all. They are worrying about their own health, their own finances, their own children, their own regrets. Most people are simply trying to survive their own lives. They are not lying awake at night discussing the watch on your wrist or the badge on your car. I remember sitting in a cafe many years ago, watching people walk past the window. Expensive cars stopped at the traffic lights. Elegant people stepped out wearing costly clothes, and I noticed something that surprised me. Nobody really cared. People glanced for a second and then returned to their own conversations, their own phones, their own worries. It struck me that perhaps I had spent years performing on a stage where the audience had already gone home. That realization changed me. It did not happen overnight. These things rarely do. But little by little, I stopped asking what other people might think and started asking myself a different question. Do I actually want this? Not what society says I should want. Not what advertisements tell me to buy. Not what my old ambitions demand. What do I genuinely want at this stage of my life? And the answers surprised me. I wanted peace. I wanted time. I wanted mornings without stress. I wanted to sit quietly with a cup of tea and hear the birds outside. I wanted long conversations with people I loved. I wanted to travel without worrying about appearances. I wanted to wake up and feel free. The trouble with status is that it rarely comes alone. People think they are buying a car, but often they are buying maintenance bills, insurance payments, repairs, taxes, and endless worry. They think they are buying a large house, but they are also buying maintenance, cleaning, repairs, gardens that need attention, rooms they rarely enter, and responsibilities that never end. When we are young, we often trade time for money because we believe there will always be more time later. But when you become old, you understand that time was always the valuable currency. The larger the possessions become, the more they begin to own you. You spend your days maintaining things that were supposed to improve your life. I have known people who lived in beautiful houses yet never sat down long enough to enjoy them. They spent weekends repairing, cleaning, organizing, worrying, paying bills, managing problems. They had impressive lives from the outside, but very little freedom inside them. I have also known men who lived in modest homes, drove ordinary cars, and seemed invisible to the world. Yet they had something far more valuable. They owned their time. And when you reach your 70s, 80s, or beyond, time begins to look very different. You become protective of it. You no longer wish to spend your remaining years maintaining an image. You begin asking yourself who exactly benefits from all this effort. Many years ago, I knew a gentleman who spent most of his working life trying to appear successful. He always bought the newest car, he wore expensive clothes, he upgraded everything the moment something newer appeared. People admired him, at least from a distance. But privately, he confessed that he was exhausted. He was constantly worried about money, constantly working longer than he wanted, constantly chasing a standard that kept moving further away. Another friend lived very differently. His home was modest. His clothes were simple. His car was old enough that nobody noticed it. But every Tuesday morning he could do whatever he wanted. He could walk by the sea, visit his grandchildren, read books, or simply sit quietly in his garden. Which man was truly wealthy? As I have grown older, the answer has become obvious. One of the hardest questions you can ask yourself after 60 is this: if nobody ever saw it, would I still want it? If nobody knew what car you drove, would you buy it? If nobody entered your house, would you need all that space? If nobody noticed your watch, your clothes, your possessions, would they still matter to you? Those questions can make a person uncomfortable because they reveal how many of our decisions belong to other people. Some desires are not really ours at all. They belong to the younger version of ourselves who was still competing, still proving something, still trying to earn approval. As I sit here today, many years older than I ever expected to become, I can tell you that approval is one of the heaviest burdens a person carries. You spend years chasing it, and then discover that it was never worth very much in the first place. The moment you stop needing other people to confirm your value, something inside you becomes lighter. You walk differently, you breathe differently, you sleep better. And perhaps that is why so many older people gradually disappear into simpler lives. It is not because they have given up. It is because they have finally understood what matters. Because once you understand what matters, you begin to see luxury in places you never noticed before. When I was young, I believed luxury meant something visible. I thought it was the expensive car parked outside the restaurant, the large house at the end of the street, the watch that caught people's attention, or the clothes that made someone appear important. But after many years, after losses and disappointments, after watching friends grow old and watching some of them leave this world far sooner than expected, I discovered that real luxury is often invisible. The ability to wake up without anxiety is luxury. The ability to spend an afternoon doing absolutely nothing is luxury. Being able to say no without feeling guilty is luxury. Walking into a room without needing anyone's approval is luxury. And perhaps the greatest luxury of all is becoming comfortable with who you are when nobody is watching. I remember a period of my life when I owned something that many people would have admired. It was a beautiful automobile, the kind of machine that turns heads and attracts attention. For years I had dreamed about owning it. I worked hard for it, saved for it, imagined the feeling of finally sitting behind the wheel, and when I eventually bought it, I felt proud. At least for a while. But something happened that I never expected. Everywhere I went, people noticed it. Some wanted to talk about it. Others wanted to compare it with their own cars. Some wanted to race me on the road. Strangers stared. People made assumptions about who I was. Instead of enjoying the experience, I found myself becoming uncomfortable. The car that I thought would make me feel successful actually made me feel exposed. One afternoon, after a particularly unpleasant encounter on the road, I parked the car in my driveway and simply sat there in silence. I remember asking myself a very simple question. Why am I doing this? Who is benefiting from all this attention? Was this machine bringing joy into my life? Or was it creating stress that had not existed before? Not long afterward, I sold it, and I never bought another one like it. That experience taught me something that has stayed with me for decades. The things that attract admiration often attract unwanted attention as well. The world notices visible success, but attention is not always pleasant. Sometimes attention brings comparison. Sometimes it brings envy. Sometimes it invites opinions that you never asked for. As I became older, privacy began to feel far more valuable than recognition. These days, my life is much simpler. I still own things that I enjoy. I appreciate good quality. I believe there is nothing wrong with buying something that serves you well and lasts many years. But there is a difference between owning something because it adds value to your life and owning something because you hope it adds value to your image. Many older people eventually discover this difference. They stop buying to impress and start choosing what genuinely makes life easier, calmer, or more enjoyable. The opinions of strangers lose their power. The competition quietly disappears. The endless race simply ends. I often meet people around my age who tell me they feel invisible. Society no longer pays attention to them the way it once did. Their careers are behind them. Their children have their own lives. The world seems focused on youth, speed, and novelty. But I tell them that invisibility can become one of the greatest gifts of old age. When nobody expects you to prove yourself anymore, you are finally free to become yourself. You can dress comfortably. You can drive whatever you like. You can spend your money on experiences rather than appearances. You can travel quietly. You can enjoy simple pleasures without needing to explain them to anyone. You no longer need to participate in competitions that never truly mattered. Some people spend their entire lives trying to look successful. They work longer than necessary. They take on debt. They worry constantly about appearances. They fear what others might think. And then one day they reach old age and realize they sacrificed peace for approval. I have made many mistakes in my life, and I certainly do not sit here pretending that I understood these things when I was young. I wanted attention. I wanted recognition. I wanted people to see that I had achieved something. But age has a way of stripping away unnecessary layers. One by one, the things that seemed important begin to fall away until only a few truths remain. Your health matters. Your relationships matter. Your time matters. Your peace of mind matters. Almost everything else is negotiable. There is something deeply comforting about entering the final chapters of life without carrying the burden of impressing people. You no longer need to prove your intelligence, your wealth, your success, or your importance. You simply live. And the strange thing is that when you stop trying to appear important, you often become more interesting to the people around you. I have sat with old men who owned very little but carried tremendous wisdom. I have met wealthy people who seemed terribly unhappy. I have met retired workers who found enormous joy in small gardens, simple meals, old books, and quiet afternoons. They were not trying to impress anyone. They were simply enjoying the years they had left. As I look back now, I realize that some of the happiest moments of my life cost very little. Sitting beside someone I loved, walking through the countryside, drinking tea while rain tapped against the window, listening to old music, watching grandchildren laugh, sharing stories with friends. None of these things required status. None of them required expensive possessions. None of them depended on what anyone else thought. And perhaps that is the lesson I want to leave with you today. If you are over 60, 70, or even 80, you have already spent enough years carrying expectations. You have spent enough years worrying about appearances. You have spent enough years trying to meet standards that other people created. Maybe now is the time to set some of those burdens down. Buy what serves you. Keep what you enjoy. Let go of what impresses other people. Protect your peace. Protect your time. Protect your freedom. Because in the end, nobody remembers the size of your house or the badge on your car. People remember how you made them feel. They remember your kindness, your wisdom, your presence, your laughter, and the way you lived your life. Those are the things that remain. And if there is one final thought I would leave you with tonight, it is this. You do not become poor by looking ordinary. You become rich when you no longer need to look important. At my age, I would much rather walk quietly through the world with peace in my heart than carry the weight of impressing people who are busy living their own lives. The older I become, the more grateful I am for simple days, honest conversations, and the freedom to live on my own terms. Thank you for spending these moments with me today. I always appreciate these little conversations we share, and hearing your own experiences reminds me that none of us walk this road alone. If any of these thoughts spoke to you, perhaps think about them over a cup of tea, or share them with someone who may need to hear them. Until next time, take good care of yourself, be kind to one another, and remember that peace is worth far more than appearances. Thank you for listening, my friends, and I wish you a quiet evening and a gentle tomorrow. Goodbye for now.